Good evening, everybody. Breaking tonight, President Trump always makes the Dems, the left-wing national media, and the Republican establishment more than just a little nervous. And today, they all must have been quivering with anxiety because this president, they learned, speaks the truth, says what he means what he says, and good Lord, he keeps campaign promises as well. Today, he did what none of his predecessors have done. That is to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem and recognize it as Israel's capital. Before we get to President Trump, let's hear from two of his predecessors, remarks to the largest pro-Israel lobbying group in the country before they took office.
As soon as I take office, I will begin the process of moving the United States ambassador to the city of Israel as chosen as its capital.
Jerusalem will remain the capital of Israel, and it must remain undivided.
And here is President Trump today.
Today, we finally acknowledge the obvious, that Jerusalem is Israel's capital. This is nothing more or less than a recognition of reality. It is also the right thing to do.
An extraordinary contrast in leadership, courage, conviction, wouldn't you say? We'll take it all up in moments. I'll be talking with Congressman Ron DeSantis. Also tonight, the Dems eating their own. Democrats never work so viciously as when they work in a pack, and they formed one today. Just ask Senator Al Franken. Almost 40 Democrats getting together in that pack, including Chuck Schumer, now calling for Al Franken's ouster as an eighth accuser has come forward. Franken himself set to make an announcement tomorrow. His office says reports he will resign are not accurate and that no final decision has been made by the senator. We'll take that up and more with Ann Coulter, our special guest here tonight. And dangerous wildfires spreading unchecked across Southern California, forcing nearly 200,000 people to evacuate the area. As of right now, Santa Ana winds are feeding the flames. There's no containment even being considered or in sight. We'll have a live report for you here tonight. Our top story, President Trump's act of political courage. The president today formally recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, setting in motion a plan to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. In a speech at the White House, President Trump did what his predecessors promised but never delivered on.
This is a long overdue step to advance the peace process and to work towards a lasting agreement. While previous presidents have made this a major campaign promise, they failed to deliver. Today, I am delivering.
And the move fulfilled a key campaign promise.
When I become president, the days of treating Israel like a second-class citizen will end on day one. We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hailed the president's announcement, saying it's an important step toward peace.
We're profoundly grateful for the president for his courageous and just decision. I also want to make clear there will be no change whatsoever to the status quo at the holy sites. Israel will always ensure freedom of worship for Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike.
And with the president's decision, now begins the process of relocating the U.S. Embassy. That's expected to take years. While President Trump makes bold moves on the world stage, he's being hounded in the swamp by an out-of-control special counsel, burning through millions of taxpayer dollars, assembling a pack of partisan attack dogs and hacks. Just this week, we've seen an avalanche of evidence that Robert Mueller's team is rife with conflict and less than principled investigators. There's Peter Strzok, co-author of the infamous Comey memo, clearing Hillary Clinton of the email scandal, ostracized within the FBI for carrying on an affair with a female colleague. Mueller had no choice but to demote Strzok After an anti-Trump text tirade surfaced, and more than one, the messages the public still haven't been allowed to see, that's about to change. There's also Andrew Weissmann, Mueller's top lieutenant, who wrote a letter effusively praising the acting attorney general at the time, Sally Yates. She blatantly defied President Trump, refused to enforce the president's travel ban, the one that the Supreme Court just ordered to be followed. Don't forget the Democratic donors. At least 9 of Mueller's 17 attorneys on the special counsel team are Democrats, Democratic donors, and 5 of them gave to Hillary Clinton. Mueller himself, who ignored the Uranium One scandal as FBI director and remains a close personal friend of James Comey, whose firing led to the appointment of the special counsel in the first place, even as the evidence mounts that the real collusion at the center of the Russia investigation is between Mueller, Democrats, and the deep state hell-bent on trying to delegitimize President Trump, and apparently at any cost. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein saying in an interview today, imagine this, he says he's satisfied with the investigation. A lot of people are not. And among them is Congressman Ron DeSantis. He joins us here tonight, a member of several key committees, including Foreign Affairs, Judiciary Oversight, a member of the Freedom Caucus. Congressman, great to have you with us. Rod Rosenstein saying he's satisfied with the investigation. Your reaction to his, if you will, his measure of the Mueller special counsel investigation?
It's absolutely bewildering, Lou. Well, first of all, Rosenstein made a big mistake by appointing the special counsel to begin with. He did not identify a crime to investigate. It was basically open-ended, no subject limitation, no financial limitation. That is not the way you do these things. So from day one, he's been wrong about this. But think about what we have here. You have Peter Strzok, who is an anti-Trump, pro-Clinton FBI agent. Looking at his text, I mean, that's bad. You don't want that in investigation. But then viewed against the backdrop of how the FBI bent over backwards to exonerate Hillary. They changed the wording in Comey's statement. Comey drafted the statement to exonerate her 2 months before they even interviewed her. They didn't confront her at the interview. She wasn't under oath or anything like that. Strzok conducted that interview. They gave immunity to people like Cheryl Mills. They didn't pursue the obstruction of justice for destroying and bleach-spitting all the emails. And then you look at Mueller, and Strzok was involved at the very beginning of this Russia thing, and they're trying to pin anything on anybody, doing false statements to Michael Flynn. They didn't pursue false statements against Cheryl Mills. They didn't pursue false statements against Hillary Clinton. I think, though, the thing that we have to find out immediately is how did this Russia thing start with the FBI in 2016? Was it that the Democrats went to Strzok and Andrew McCabe and had the dossier and provided that, and that's how this whole thing started? Rosenstein and now the current FBI director, they need to cough that up, and we need to know how all this started.
Yeah, when I think about the entire process, it started with an FBI that didn't insist on investigating the servers of the DNC that were claimed to have been hacked by Russians. That's where it started. And we watched a president who kept focusing on the meddling, as it was called at some points, intervention in our elections. He never did a single thing, didn't even call for sanctions until he had less than a month in the office. This right now looks like the greatest travesty and miscarriage of justice in this country's history in presidential politics. And I don't see your speaker and the majority leader and the heads of these committees, whether it be judiciary or intelligence, standing up and saying, Congressman DeSantis, this is absolutely abhorrent, it's un-American, it is a travesty, and it's got to end. Why aren't they saying that?
Well, we're hoping that can get to that point. I mean, we have Christopher Wray.
Aren't we?
We have Christopher Wray coming to the Judiciary Committee tomorrow. Now, he was not director during any of this, obviously. He replaced Comey. But he's going to have to answer these questions that you've raised, that I've raised. And then next week, we have Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein coming before the Judiciary Committee. So guys like me, guys like Jim Jordan, we have an opportunity to present these facts and get answers. And if they can't answer the questions, then why are they serving in those positions? And so the heat is getting turned up. Look, Lou, I'm with you. I wish the leadership were guns blazing about how this thing has happened, because they've not done that. They basically said, we'll let Mueller do his job, let him do whatever he wants. The problem is that whatever he ends up doing, it doesn't have legitimacy when you have all this evidence of tainted and political bias and the disparate treatment between Hillary Clinton and then how they're treating Trump associates.
Yeah, I just think that every American watching a president be treated this way by a bunch of partisan hacks playing games and just running roughshod over our Constitution, our duly elected president, every American should be sick to his or her stomach to watch this and mad as hell. It's got to stop. It's got to stop now, because this is taking so long. Who in the hell gave somebody the right to take 2 years to investigate, impede the lawful performance of his duties of a duly elected president? It's just infuriating. Congressman, if I may, you also chair the Subcommittee on National Security. I want your reaction to the president's courageous decision, I think, today to recognize Jerusalem as the capital city of our ally, Israel.
Well, his three predecessors all promised to do it. They all failed to deliver. The president delivered for the American people today. I thought his speech was a tour de force. I think it's great. Just think of how much further we've come in a year. Last year, Obama was at the UN trying to sell Israel out. And now we have not only the president recognizing Jerusalem, Congress passing things like the Taylor Force Act, but I think what he did will reverberate beyond just Israel, because I think foreign leaders are looking at this president and they're saying, this is a guy that means what he says. He's not like some of those other guys that would just say the platitudes. Right. And so I think the president's credibility has been enhanced by this, and I think his prestige abroad has been enhanced by this. And in the Arab world, act swiftly and decisively. They respect the strong horse. They don't respect the weak horse. President showed today he's a strong horse.
Let me turn to the slush fund legislation that you introduced. How soon, and we're hearing more outrageous conduct this time from Gregory Meeks of New York and making use of the funds. How soon will we see the House of Representatives vote on your legislation that will ban demand restitution to the taxpayer of these congressmen who have used those slush funds? When will we see a vote on that, do you believe?
I hope as soon as possible. We already have 75 co-sponsors in the House. I think we're going to pass 100 within the next couple weeks, and I'd like to get a vote before Christmas. I don't see that teed up at this point, but we got to keep putting the pressure on. The bottom line is we're going to do tax reform. We're going to do some good things, but if we go home and our constituents say, why are you guys letting this slush fund continue? Nobody has a good answer for that. There's no way we can let it continue.
As you know, there is no good answer, and we commend you again for introducing that legislation to curtail it. Congressman Ron DeSantis, always good to talk with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're coming right back with much, much more. Stay with us. Al Franken said he wouldn't resign, but dozens of Democratic senators got together today and demanded that Franken resign as an eighth accuser has come forward. We take up the despicable Dems with Ann Coulter. And roaring winds and raging wildfires crossing Southern California. Firefighters battling 5 separate wildfires fanned by those ferocious Santa Ana winds, some 70 miles an hour. We'll have the full report here next. Stay with us. We're coming right back. President Trump today warned that a government shutdown could happen if Democrats dig in on their unrealistic immigration demands.
The Democrats are really looking at something that is very dangerous for our country. They are looking at shutting down. They want to have illegal immigrants, in many cases, people that we don't want in our country. They want to have illegal immigrants pouring into our country, bringing with them crime, tremendous amounts of crime. We don't want to have that.
We don't want to have it, but have it we do. The number of illegal immigrants crossing our southern border has dropped to recent lows. But the reality is there is no wall, and the reality is that much, much needs to be done to solve first our border security and then deal with the issues of illegal immigration. The Republican leadership, some things going on that we want to be sure that you're up to date on. As we've reported to you, the Senate tax bill allows illegal immigrants to continue to claim the child tax credit, and they raised that tax credit to a $2,000 benefit. That's because the taxpayer under that legislation in the Senate doesn't need a Social Security number with which to claim the tax credit as long as their child has one. The House version is stricter and does important things, but nonetheless, it is still a tax credit, requiring the taxpayer, though, to provide their own Social Security number in order to be able to claim the refundable portion of the credit. Joining me tonight, political commentator, best-selling author, syndicated columnist, and legendary icon. Good to have you with us. It is, and it's absolutely true. You have been fighting the left in this country for quite a long time now, and with immeasurable success. Obviously, President Trump helped a bit in 2016.
Yes, he did.
Could you have possibly imagined that the president would have achieved what he has in terms of the economy, markets, and rolling back regulation, setting a whole new tone for this country?
What I didn't realize was how real the swamp is. I mean, he is really being opposed by all of official Washington, D.C., which is why it's unfortunate that so many of his appointees are part of the swamp, because they're fighting him. And the media, I hated before. Wow, do I hate them now, until they are utterly discredited.
By the way, look into the camera, because watching you right now are tons of Americans who see it exactly that way. The left-wing media is driving the support of this president, I think, in large measure.
Oh, I totally agree.
He is standing up despite, as you say, being attacked, assailed every day from every quarter.
Viciously with lies.
I'm sorry?
Viciously with lies. I mean, he's absolutely right on the fake news. I mean, the funny thing, I'm obviously a little testy with him because we don't have our wall yet. But then the media attacks him and they bring me back to defending him.
Right.
You know, I'm like a sitting duck. You could get me to attack him. I'm mad that we don't have a wall. But no, every day it's some outrageously unfair attack and they bring me back in.
Well, you have to, and by the way, I want the wall. I want the wall now. I wanted it actually 6 months ago. Though that may not be realistic, but having the wall next year is definitely realistic. And secondly, you have to credit the Trump administration for having the lowest, I was about to say immigration rate, crossover rate of that border in recent memory.
Right. I mean, what concerns me about that is, I mean, this is why I supported him. I think that he's still living off the rhitoric of the campaign. And that was an important campaign.
That's not fair. I mean, we're talking about substantial, concrete, highly specific achievements. And I just enumerated just some of them.
The fact that fewer illegal immigrants are trying to cross in that is a result of his rhetoric. It is not because we have a wall. He is allowing ICE to do their job. But all of the things that we like that's happening, it goes away like that with the next president. Only a wall is forever. That's why that's what people were chanting.
Did I just hear you hold him not only accountable for his campaign promises to the American people, but for the next 3 or 4 presidents, say, as well?
Oh, for the next millennium.
Yeah. Well, I think he's making a pretty good run at it, because he has reversed the course under, you may remember Barack Obama. We were looking into the abyss of that man's leadership.
No, I think that's part of the reason for the hysteria from the left, from the media, from the deep state, from the swamp. They were just about to tip the country. They almost had it.
That's why do you
4
think
more
that
years of illegal immigrants and legal immigrants, and the entire country would be the state of California. They could taste it. They were so close. Republicans would be gone, gone, gone. So we really need Trump. I mean, if he wants to...
I'm glad to hear you moving at least in this direction, because...
What direction?
The direction of recognizing that there is no possibility whatsoever that we could have survived another, well, a Hillary Clinton.
But the same is
and
true
that
if
we
Trump
would
doesn't
not
keep his
have been
promises.
able to defeat Hillary Clinton
with anyone but Trump.
That's
absolutely. No, and that's absolutely true. No, I have no regret for...
By the way, did you notice
but he's got to fulfill his
promises?
Growing about. You know, okay, I want to talk to you about that. You better stop bragging about that because the stock market is going to crash and it's not going to be his fault.
The stock market is going to what? It's going to do. You think
I forgot. I'm on Fox Business where it's all happy talk about what goes up never coming down.
Well, I don't think you could say that's true of the Fox Business Network at all. I think
really?
I think that's an atrocity against truth. But the reality is that I would have to be apprised of what it means to see a market drop 5-6%. Just kidding. Ann Coulter, consider me sufficiently warned and as well entertained by your most recent visit, which is this one. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. Be sure to vote in our poll tonight. Do you believe President Trump's historic decision to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem is a display of American strength and resolve that could lead to real change in the Middle East? Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Like me on Facebook and Instagram, Lou Dobbs Tonight. On Wall Street, stocks closed mixed. Oh, my gosh. You don't believe Ann Coulter knows something, do you? My goodness. The Dow actually fell, down 40 points. The S&P a fraction. There you go again, Ann. And the NASDAQ up 14. What happened? There must be some sort of tension in the world, or a new critter has been discovered in the swamp. Volume on the big board, 3.2 billion shares. A reminder to listen to my reports 3 times a day, coast to coast on the Salem Radio Network, where we never, ever hesitate to remind you the market's up about $6 trillion since President Trump was elected. Up next, wildfires raging across Southern California. We'll have the latest for you. A new wildfire shutting down the 405 freeway. Or as it's called, isn't that the San Diego freeway, I believe? Destroying properties in some of the most expensive zip codes in the entire nation. We'll have a live report for you straight ahead. Stay with us. We're coming right back. Wildfires are raging in Southern California tonight, fueled by the Santa Ana winds, strong winds. Evacuations have been ordered now for nearly 200,000 people. Firefighters are struggling to even battle at the margin those 5 fires in what is already that state's worst fire season ever. Fox News senior correspondent Adam Housley is in Ventura tonight with our report.
This is a multi-day weather event projected to last until Friday. This has only just begun.
The beginning of December brought a flurry of wildfires across Southern California, with wind gusts approaching hurricane force and conditions tinder dry.
The combination of those gusty Santa Ana winds and the very low relative humidity led to explosive fire growth.
The largest and most destructive, the Thomas Fire, about 60 miles northwest of Los Angeles in Ventura County. The flames scorched more than 100 square miles and drove tens of thousands from their homes.
I just wanted to get out of the house, so we just left, basically, with just the clothes on our back. I've been here all my life, and to see this happen right now, it's crazy.
NASA images show the smoke visible from space. The fuel for these fires, a year in the making after last winter's precipitation allowed the vegetation to grow. But with no rain in 3 months, the dry conditions, along with the Santa Ana winds, are now fueling the fires.
It doesn't take a lot under these conditions to start a fire. When you put wind behind it, embers can travel miles downwind, which creates another fire.
And about 60 miles east of Ventura in Sylmar, people and animals also fleeing the creek fire, the blaze charring more than 10,000 acres. And 20 miles to the south of Sylmar, a brush fire created a scary morning commute down the notoriously busy 405 freeway in Los Angeles, prompting a shutdown and burning multi-million-dollar homes in the wealthy Bel Air neighborhood. The flames coming dangerously close to the famed Getty Center Museum. Los Angeles' mayor warning residents to be prepared to go.
Be safe, get ready, load up your cars.
And Lou, right now it's calm. The winds are not blowing, but they are forecasted to come back tonight with a vengeance, possibly even stronger than we saw Monday night into yesterday, where they, in some cases, gusted more than 70 miles an hour, worrying firefighters who've made some headway that new fires could be stoked by these winds, or potentially even stuff like this is totally burned out, could once again reignite and burn down other homes and even hillsides that had made it through the last firestorm. So tonight, everybody's just watching.
For making this decision. Lou, there haven't been serious negotiations with the Palestinians since 1978. They're not going to take place anytime soon. But I got to tell you, this move may make negotiations with the Palestinians more likely. I'm not going to hold my breath on that, but it's possible.
Yeah, and with the threats from Abbas that he had expressed to President Trump about the consequences of such an action. You know, they're both, first of all, they're reprehensible, abhorrent, disrespectful, and you know, unworthy of even our attention. But the reality is that this president is also working to build up relationships with Saudi Arabia, to restore a relationship with the Arab states throughout the Middle East. These are important energies to be put in motion, particularly given Iran and the history that was being built with President Obama again, that is to nurture an existential threat that Iran represents to Western civilization.
That's exactly right. The Czech Republic has followed us. They are also going to move their embassy to Jerusalem. And if the president pulls out of the Iran deal, which I hope he does soon, many nations will follow us on that. Israel, Saudi Arabia, I think the Gulf states, and I think there will be nations in Europe and around the world. They want to do the right thing. They're looking for a decisive American leader who's going to do the right thing.
Yeah, that strategic patience of the Obama regime has evaporated, and what a wonderful thing it is. Fred Fleitz, thanks so much.
Good to be here.
Good to see you. Up next here, the Senate voting to go to conference with the House on tax reform. Will Congress and the Senate get it done? We take that up with Tony Sayegh from the White House here next. We'll be right back. In our online poll, we asked you last night, do you believe the evidence of political bias within Special Counsel Mueller's Special Counsel office have become so sweeping, so certain, that the Department of Justice and Congress now have no ethical choice but to take action? 82% of you said yes. Well, joining me now is a man who's awfully happy about the success of the votes in the House and the Senate on tax reform. Tony Sayegh is Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs at the Treasury Department. Great to see you. Let me say congratulations, first of all.
Always great to be with you, Lou.
To you, the White House, the Treasury Department, to everyone. A remarkable win for a president. Everybody said, not everyone, but nearly everyone said going into this months ago that it would be foolhardy to even think you could possibly get something done given what had happened with the repeal of Obamacare, you name it.
Well, listen, we're very excited, Lou, where we are. We're within weeks of getting historic tax cuts and tax reform for the first time in 31 years. You know how passionate the president has been on this issue from the campaign through the earliest days of the administration. We've been working from the administration side with Secretary Mnuchin and Director Cohn with Capitol Hill on both the House and the Senate side. And we're here at a point where a conference is going to happen. We're really very few big differences still exist, and we're going to get the American people significant tax cuts, lowering rates, giving people more of their hard-earned money back, which is what we should be doing as a government, and making sure we have businesses compete around the world here at home.
I don't know how to break this to you. You're in conference, man. You don't have to keep selling.
Well, we feel great, but listen, you know, we don't count our chickens, as they say, Lou. We feel very good about where we are in the overall process.
I think that you're very wise in that regard, too.
Well, thank you.
Give me a sense, give all of us a sense, if you will, where that corporate rate you think will settle. How will the pass-through look for small business in particular? Give us your best judgment.
Well, look, the president's been clear that he wants to see the corporate rate down dramatically. It's at 35 right now. The world average among our competitors is around 22, 23. We're bringing it down to 20 in both bills, and that's where we expect it to remain. Pass-throughs have actually gotten significant benefits out of this process. Obviously, through the Senate bill, we're going to make sure on whatever comes out, we're having historically low taxes for small businesses, owner-operators, the job creators that we know our economy relies on. So they're going to see some significant rate reductions, the lowest in 80 years for many of these pass-through businesses. And on the individual side, Lou, we're lowering rates dramatically. So if today you're making around $76,000 as a family, you're creeping up around the 25% bracket. Under both versions of the bill, in the House and the Senate, you're going to go down to the 12% rate. This is what we're trying to do to make sure more people have greater economic opportunity, and we have an economy that grows. We're not been growing enough, and people suffer as a result.
You know, I was talking with the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee today, Kevin Brady, talking about the tax credits for the children of illegal immigrants in this country who brought, in many cases, those kids with them. But there is a sizable difference between the Senate and the House version, and many Americans are surprised to learn that their government is giving money to illegal immigrants through tax credits. And in the House, it's $1,000. It's $2,000 in the Senate. In the Senate, they don't even require parents have Social Security numbers, a tax ID, which is readily available to every illegal immigrant in the country. How's that going to be resolved, and what is the way forward?
Look, they're going to have to definitely address that in conference, Lou. That's a concern that we share. We want to see this issue fixed. We trust they'll get it done. They have been, as a House and Senate chamber, working very well together to make sure we do get the right tax policy at the end of this process. So we anticipate a lot will get resolved. We all are working very hard to ensure that this happens this year, Lou, because we want the economic benefit for the American family to occur immediately. 2018 is a month away, and we want people to be able to get the tax benefit as soon as possible.
And we want to see that middle class growing and prospering, or as the president puts it, prosperity for all Americans.
That's exactly what we're working on, Lou.
And you're getting the job done. Congratulations again, Tony. Tony Sagg, thanks for being with us. That's it for us tonight. We thank you for being with us. General Jack Keane, Pastor Robert Jeffress among our guests here tomorrow night. We hope you will join us. Thanks for being with us tonight. Good night from New York.